Hello and welcome to Hint. That's Huberman Insight Neurotranslation. Hey, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button right now. It really helps the channel out. Okay, let's get into it. We're going to talk about one single molecule that is, believe it or not, pretty much running your life. It's called dopamine. It's the reason you have drive, it's the source of your cravings, and if you don't get how it works, it's what leads directly to burnout. So over the next few minutes, we are going to unpack exactly what's going on in your brain and how you can start making it work for you.
But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever been just completely on fire to start something new? You know, a new project, a new workout routine, whatever it is, only to have that incredible drive just fizzle out a few weeks later? Why does that happen? Why does that initial spark seem to just vanish into thin air? Well, the answer is hiding in a huge, and I mean huge, misunderstanding of what dopamine is really all about. So, first things first, we've got to bust a major myth. We hear people talk about getting a dopamine hit all the time, right? Well, that phrase is actually super misleading. What dopamine really does is way more interesting, and it's the absolute key to understanding our own long-term drive. Okay, this is the big one. For years, we thought dopamine was the pleasure molecule. You get something you want, you get a little squirt of dopamine, you feel good. Simple. But it turns out that's not really the story. Dopamine isn't about the pleasure of having. It's the powerful, universal drive of pursuing. It's the molecule of motivation. It is the wanting, not the getting.
And to really get this, you need to know that it works in two different ways. First, you have your tonic release. Just think of this as your baseline. It's the steady, low-level drip of dopamine that kind of sets your overall mood and motivation level for the day. Then you have phasic release. These are the sharp, sudden peaks that spike up when you get a reward, or even just think about getting one. These two are in a constant dance with each other, and their relationship is, well, it's everything. And that brings us to maybe the most important concept for you to understand your own motivation. I want you to picture a seesaw in your mind, because when it comes to dopamine, what goes up must come down.
So whenever you do something that causes one of those big phasic spikes, you crush a presentation at work, you eat an incredible piece of cake, you get a ton of likes on a post, your brain just floods with dopamine. It feels amazing. But that feeling has a cost, and your brain is about to balance the books.
And this is the part that nobody tells you. After any peak, your brain compensates by dropping your baseline level of dopamine. But here's the kicker. It doesn't just go back to normal. It dips below where you started. That feeling of emptiness after a huge success, that post-party blues, that's not just you being weird. That is literally a biological state of dopamine depletion.
And the rule is simple. The bigger the party, the bigger the hangover. The size of that dopamine peak directly predicts the depth and the duration of the valley that's going to follow. So a massive, once-in-a-lifetime high is almost always followed by a period where you just feel kind of flat, uninspired, maybe even a little down. It's not in your head. It's just your dopamine baseline resetting itself. Okay, so let's put some actual numbers on this. How do different things we do and consume actually stack up on this dopamine scale? The differences are pretty wild, and honestly, they explain so much about why we form bad habits. So check this out. Eating a piece of chocolate, nice little bump, about 50% over your baseline. Sex doubles it, 100% increase. But then you look at something like cocaine, and it's a 2.5 times spike. And what's not even on this chart is even crazier. Something like amphetamine can spike your dopamine a staggering 10 times above baseline. Can you just imagine the crash that comes after that?
This might all seem a little abstract, but what happens when the dopamine system isn't just low? What if it's completely destroyed? Well, a really tragic medical mystery from the 1980s gave us a terrifying look into a world without it.
Out of nowhere, a group of young heroin addicts started showing up in emergency rooms with the most severe, late-stage Parkinson's symptoms imaginable. Turns out they had all accidentally taken a bad batch of drugs, contaminated with something called MPTP. And this chemical specifically sought out and destroyed the dopamine-producing neurons in their brains. The result was horrific. They were fully awake and aware, but completely trapped inside bodies that could no longer move. And this horrible event, it actually became a landmark moment in neuroscience. It proved, in the most dramatic way possible, that dopamine isn't just this psychological thing about wanting stuff. It is physically essential for the simple act of initiating movement. Without dopamine, the brain's command to just go, to walk, to talk, even to blink, that signal just never arrives.
So, wow. Knowing all of that, about the peaks, the baselines, the crashes, and how vital this stuff is, How can we actually use this science in our own lives? How do we manage our dopamine so we can stay motivated for the long haul without completely torching our reward system?
Well, the good news is we actually have a ton of control here. It's not about just being a victim to our brain chemistry. So let's walk through 4 really powerful, science-backed strategies you can start using to build a much healthier and more sustainable motivation system. First up, you have to watch out for something called dopamine stacking. Think about it. If you need your favorite pre-workout drink, plus your most high-energy playlist, and your phone buzzing with notifications just to get yourself to the gym, you're accidentally teaching your brain that the workout itself isn't rewarding at all. You're artificially jacking up the dopamine peak, which makes the actual activity feel boring and like a chore when those other things aren't around.
Now, for a really powerful and much healthier alternative, check this out. Studies have shown that deliberate cold water exposure, we're talking a cold shower, a cold plunge, can cause a massive 250% increase in your baseline dopamine. But here's the incredible part. Unlike a drug, it's not a sharp peak followed by a brutal crash. It's a slow, steady rise that keeps your baseline elevated for hours after you get out. It's a healthy, sustainable way to feel good.
And this brings us to the ultimate mental hack. Instead of always waiting for the reward at the very end, you can literally train your brain to release dopamine during the effort itself. So when you're in the middle of something really hard and you feel that strain, you can consciously say to yourself, "This is tough, and I chose to be here. This struggle is making me better." When you do that over and over, your brain starts to associate the effort itself with the reward. You learn to love the climb, not just the view from the top.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound final thought. What if we've been looking at this whole motivation thing completely backwards? What if the real goal isn't to chase the fleeting high of finishing something, but to learn how to find the sustainable, long-lasting reward that's hidden inside the process itself? The science seems pretty clear. That single shift in perspective might just be the real secret to unlocking a lifetime of motivation.